So nestled deep in the story of Moses is this lesson on procrastination. It's in the 10 plagues. It's a bizarre story, and let's not procrastinate or kick the can down the road. I want to dive right in. You remember a couple lessons ago where God called Moses to go to Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and tell him to let the Israelite slaves go. And Moses had all these doubts, and we went over the 5 hurdles of self-doubt. I encourage you to go back and look at that lesson, that message. But Moses does it. Moses goes to Pharaoh and has the guts to stand before him and declare, freedom for the slaves. And Pharaoh wants no part of it and tells Moses to go pound sand. Get out of here. I'm not going to waste my time with you. And so in an effort to convince Pharaoh to listen to him, these plagues are sent upon Egypt to kind of twist his arm a little bit. One of the plagues deals with frogs. And so picture Moses standing before Pharaoh, and he says this. He says this in Exodus chapter 8, verse 3. He says, Pharaoh, the Nile is going to teem with frogs. And they will come up into your palace, and in your bedroom, and onto your bed, and into the houses of your officials, and on your people, and into your ovens, and into your kneading troughs, and everywhere you go, there's going to be frogs. You will be dealing with frogs every moment of the day. You won't be able to go to the bathroom without seeing a frog. Drink up a cup of coffee without seeing a frog. Go to bed without a frog coming up under your pillow. Everywhere you go. And so it happens. These frogs come up, and frogs are all over Egypt, to the point where Pharaoh can't handle it anymore. His people are like, Pharaoh, do something about the frogs. You got to deal with this. And so finally, Pharaoh calls Moses before him as he's sitting on his throne. And he says in Exodus chapter 8, verse 8, he says, Moses, pray to the Lord to take the frogs away from me and my people, and I'll let your people go. He taps out, says, I can't handle it anymore. So Moses turns it around, though. In the next verse, Moses says, I leave to you, Pharaoh, the honor of setting the time for me to pray to God, for you and your officials and your people, that you and your houses may be rid of the frogs. In other words, Moses says, Pharaoh, you tell me, when do you want to get rid of the frogs? And here's the bizarre response, the lesson that we learn from Pharaoh here in Exodus chapter 8, verse 10. For Pharaoh says, tomorrow. Get rid of the frogs tomorrow. Why would he say that? Why would Pharaoh want to spend another night with the frogs? Because the fact of the matter is, the truth is, frogs don't belong in your house. If I had one frog in my bedroom, and my wife said, get rid of the frog, and I said, I'll do it tomorrow, that would be a no-go. I'm telling you right now, it would be either the frog or me. One of them is going. And this is just one frog. Never mind 5 million frogs. Question for you right now. Think about this. Are there frogs in your house right now? Are there things in your house right now that don't belong there? A bad relationship can be a frog. A bad habit. A bad attitude. A grudge can be a frog that has been living in your house for years. And so the question that we ask Pharaoh is the same question that we ask you. Why would you spend another night with the frogs? Was Pharaoh used to the frogs? Did he get used to them, kind of like living above a bowling alley or next to a dump? After a while, you don't hear the noise or smell the smell anymore? You might not smell the smell or hear the noise, but when your friend comes over and looks down and sees a frog crawling on his toes, or sees a frog jumping on his dinner plate, he's going to know what's going on. She's going to know what's going on, be like, whoa, I ain't coming back here. All these frogs. Your kids know that there are frogs in the house as well. As a matter of fact, they're going to be up front honest, say, Mom, Dad, I don't like the frogs. I'm afraid of the frogs. Mom, Dad, frogs don't belong in the house. Can you get rid of the frogs? Would you say tomorrow? Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it tomorrow. Go to bed and spend another night with the frogs. If you won't do it for yourself, for your spouse, or for your kids, Why would you make them live another night with the frogs? You ever wonder why the frogs in your life are still around? Anger, frogs of bitterness, insecurity, self-doubt. Go back and see what we said about Moses a couple lessons ago. Frogs of guilt and shame or despair, depression. Frogs of insecurity or addiction or unforgiveness. Why is the frog of indifference still around in your life? Is it because you like Pharaoh are saying, tomorrow I'll deal with it? Let's deal with it tomorrow? Let's spend another night with the frogs? Are you saying I'll start school tomorrow? And how long have you been saying that? Are you saying I'll work on my marriage issues tomorrow? Or I'll have that conversation with my mother or my father or my children? Yeah, I'll have it tomorrow. Or I'll go to the doctor tomorrow. Or I'll take God seriously and get back to church tomorrow, next week. I'll get healthier. I'll get in shape. Yeah, but I'll do it tomorrow. Pharaoh had the opportunity to call his own shot. Pharaoh had the opportunity to make his life better at the time of his choosing. And he said, well, let's do it tomorrow. And so Pharaoh spent another night with the frogs. I want to close with just one verse for you to think about. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 2, the Apostle Paul says this. He says, I tell you, now is the time of God's favor. Now is the day of salvation. And I'll add this to what Paul said. Now is the time to deal with the frogs. So deal with the frogs, walk in peace, and have the best day possible.